afternoon, everyone. Today, I'm going to ask you to imagine something. I want you to cast yourselves a year into the future, to the 18th of December 2022 to be exact. You're sitting in the living room. Your trees and the lights are all up. Your family are sitting round about you, and everything feels nice and Christmassy. And then all of a sudden the place erupts. Everyone's cheering, hugging, celebrating as Andy Robertson lifts aloft the famous trophy. Scotland have won the World Cup. Now, even the most optimistic of Scotland fans don't think that that's actually going to happen. We need to qualify first. But regardless of that, next year does bring around quite a strange occurrence. A Winter World Cup. These sorts of tournaments we usually associate with the summer, not the freezing cold winter. Of course that needs to be the case because of the harsh Qatar summers. But overall, football's perhaps not something that we usually associate with Christmas. But actually, they're two things that have quite a close connection. In fact, in England, it was tradition for matches to be played on Christmas Day for many years, a tradition which had its roots in Victorian times. In those days, Christmas Day was a rare day off, so the working classes would often be able to attend matches that they usually wouldn't be able to. Now, I can only imagine my mum's reaction if I told her that I was going to spend 3 hours of Christmas Day off at a football match. And I usually spend my days off just relaxing in the house. But in those days, houses were often overcrowded and in poor conditions, so it's no real surprise that people used to take their day off to get out of the house and go and take in a match. It's also then no real surprise that Christmas Day matches no longer take place, and haven't done so since 1965. That doesn't mean that football no longer has any significance at Christmas. Even today there's a special atmosphere at Christmas matches, or matches in December. Spirits are often much higher, and every year you will see at least one person dressed up as Santa Claus at a match. Although Christmas advertising did confuse Spanish footballer Thiago when he tried to pass to an electronic advertising board. But this heightened atmosphere often makes its way onto the pitch as well. The games are rarely boring. In fact, there's quite a famous picture of the 1963 English First Division Boxing Day fixtures, which saw 66 goals scored in 10 matches. And even personally, I have memories and experiences of football in the Christmas period that do resonate with me. Firstly, my first ever Motherwell season ticket was a half-season ticket my gran and grandpa got me as a Christmas present. I even got to use it the very next day as we played a Boxing Day home match. We didn't win, but that didn't really matter much. As a Motherwell fan, however, Christmas time does bring an added element tinged with sadness. It was on the 29th of December 2007 that our captain Phil O'Donnell passed away on the pitch. As a 9-year-old who was at the match, I don't remember much of the game itself. My cousin Douglas was a mascot, which was the only reason I was there. But I do have vivid memories of looking towards the sidelines to see who had been substituted, and then looking back at the pitch to see a crowd of both teams' players around this one spot. It wasn't until later that night that we learned that Phil had died. It was a tragic experience, one that sticks with Motherwell fans even 14 years later. Out of the tragedy and sadness, however, it does bring an extra sense of community at Christmas time, although I'm sure all Motherwell fans would rather that it had never happened. But it would be remiss of me to talk about football at Christmas without mentioning the biggest example of the worlds colliding. The Christmas truce of 1914 has become almost a myth in recent times. But for me, it's one of the greatest examples of the unifying power that both Christmas and football can have. Amongst all the bloodshed, amongst all the horrendous trench conditions, these ordinary people put aside the hatred and the fighting. No man's land, often a place of death and dread for soldiers, where you wouldn't be able to step without fear for your life. became a place of peace. And two of the unifying factors in that were Christmas and football. It's amazing to think of how significant Christmas can be in people's lives. That enemies in a battlefield could wish each other joy and happiness, knowing that tomorrow there would be none. It's also amazing that something that we now consider as divisive as football was how they chose to mark that day of peace. So next Christmas, as we're watching Scotland probably not win the World Cup, maybe it won't feel quite as strange as it seems. Thank you.